Hi everybody. Today we're going to do an introductory example that duplicates one of the examples in the user manual. We're going to do it in a video because by doing it in the video you can see how fast it is to do this in real life. What takes a few pages in step-by-step instructions in written text you can see can be done in just a matter of a few seconds in real life. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a visual display that allows us to compare the sizes of 4 countries: the United States, Brazil, China, and Australia, to see how they all look how comparable they are in size to each other in real life. And I'm going to start by creating a map. So let's create new map. There it is. Open the map and it's blank. There's no layers to it. So let's create a layer, first layer to add to the map. And I'm going to use one of the built-in web server data sources, the Bing Street Maps data source, where we can take this image and drag it and drop it into the map. And there we see tiles that appear from the Bing web server. As we zoom in and out and scroll in and out and so forth, the Bing web server provides us with tiles. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of web servers that you can use directly from Manifold, so that's a convenient way of getting background layers. Okay, terrific. Now what I'd like to do is I'd like to add a drawing here which shows the various countries of the world as area objects. And to do that, what I've done is I've downloaded a project from the Manifold website. So how to open that project and how to get that drawing from that project into this current project that we're doing. Well, there's a variety of ways we could do it. We could use, for example, file link, and we could link that project to this project and then copy and paste from a data source and put it in here. Or we can do something that's fairly clever that you can't do with every GIS package. We can launch a second session of Manifold, and there it is. We've just opened the second session of Manifold, and in the second session of Manifold we can open the World MXB project that I downloaded, and there it is. And there's actually the world map, the world drawing that I was talking about. MXB format is an archival format. Manifold, when you open the archival format, will automatically convert it into live map format. For drawing this size, for a project this size, it takes no time at all. It's instantaneous. Even if it's a very large project, it's still quite quick. Unlike other GIS packages, you can open multiple Manifold editions at the same time, multiple Manifold sessions at the same time, and you can copy and paste between them. So here, for example, we'll highlight these 2 items, and I'll click Control-C to copy. Then I'll come here, and I can Control-V to paste. And we've just copied the world drawing from that other Manifold session into this Manifold session. I can now take the drawing and I can drag it and drop it into my map window. Now what we've done here is something interesting. If you look here at the Bing Street Maps layer, and in the contents pane we look at the component panel, which tells us what projections all these different layers and stuff uses, we can see that that Bing uses the pseudo-Mercator projection that is typical of virtually all web servers these days on internet. The way Manifold maps work is that the very first layer which you add to the Manifold map will set the projection for that map. So because we added a pseudo-Mercator layer as the first layer, the map is now in pseudo-Mercator projection. If we click here on the world layer to make it the active layer, we can see that the component pane reports that the world layer is in latitude and longitude. Yet all the same, it overlaps completely with the display that we see here in the map in pseudo-Mercator. That's because Manifold is dynamically, on the fly, reprojecting the world layer from latitude and longitude into pseudo-Mercator projection. Now what we'd like to do is we'd like to change the projection in the map from using pseudo-Mercator, where some of the countries here up farther north are more distorted, into so-called equal area projection, so that the area comparisons that we make between countries will be valid. And the equal area projection we use will be the Gaul projection. We click right here on the coordinate picker button, choose Edit Coordinate System, and Manifold's huge coordinate system dialog, which is zillions of standard projections, over 5,000 EPSG projections, and the ability to set whatever custom projection you want, flies into action. It opens with pseudo-Mercator projection set by default. We're going to change this to the Gaul projection, and we can scroll down this long list to find the Gaul projection, or we can just enter it here in the filter box, GAL, and all projections that have a GAL in them, case not relevant, will appear. So we can just click on the Gaul, and that's it, and we just click OK, and like magic we have just reprojected this display into the Gaul projection. The Gauss projection also has distortion. For example, it makes countries around the equator look a little bit too tall. But the Gauss projection is an equal area projection. That is, the areas of these countries actually is comparable. I mean, it's not like Australia has a larger area because it's down here than it would have if it were here on the equator. So we've just reprojected that map into the Gauss, and now what we can do is we want to take all these countries that we have in the world layer, and we want to get rid of all of them except just the 4 that we're interested in: the United States, Brazil, China, and Australia. The quickest way to do that is to control-click the countries that we're interested in to select them, and then Control-I to invert the selection. So now all the countries except those 4 are selected, and now we click Delete. So the quickest way to delete a whole bunch of countries that you're not interested in is to select the ones you are interested in, click Control-I to invert the selection, and then press Delete to get rid of the ones you don't want. Terrific. We're now down to just the 4 countries of interest. So let's move them around a bit. And to do that, I'm going to Shift-Alt click on Brazil. We'll start with Brazil. And that calls up the record panel with the list of coordinates that make up Brazil. And I'm going to click here to move the focus on that panel, choose Control-I, and that selects all the coordinates. And that turns all the coordinates here with their edit handles dark. That's a visual indicator that whatever editing move I do now will apply to all of these coordinates. So for example, if I click and drag, I will click and drag and move all of them. So far what we have here is just a preview. And it's using blue preview color, and I can move it around and change it however I like. And when I'm ready to commit that, when I decide, okay, I like what I see, I can either click here, Update Record, or I can right-click in the map and choose Save Changes. There, we've just moved Brazil. Let's move the United States. Once again, I Control-A here to select all the coordinates. Let's move the United States down here onto the equator near Brazil. Let's put it right about there. I'll click Update Record. Let's now move China. Control-A. And we'll move China down here onto the equator also. Right about there. I think that looks about right. Oh, down a little bit lower, maybe more. Okay. Right about there. Update record. Cool. And let's move Australia also onto the equator. So we now have the 4 countries in a row. Click Update Record. And I'm going to alt-click here to take that highlighting off. And now we have all 4 countries in a row on the equator. I'm going to right-click and drag to zoom box in a little bit closer on them all. And I think for the next step, what we want to do is we want to get rid of this drab default formatting. We're going to use the Style panel for that. And I'm going to change the area fill color, and I'm going to do a thematic format based on the name field. We're going to make it unique values for the name of these 4 countries: Australia, Brazil, China, United States. In the palette button, I'll choose the Color Brewer Spectral palette. That's slightly off screen. And if I click Update Style, there you see how the 4 countries are now colored in that style. This is not the color arrangement that the user manual topic uses. And let's make that color arrangement, which uses these colors in reverse order. To do that, I click here into the intervals list to move the focus there. Control-A, select all of them. Right-click on any of the color wells and choose Reverse, and that reverses the order of colors. Now when I click Update Style, the order of colors is reversed, and that gives you the color arrangement that we see in the user manual topic. Let's create labels for these 4 countries. To do that, I right-click here on the world drawing, and I choose Create New Labels. Because I right-clicked on the drawing to start that new labels process, it understands I want to use the world drawing. And let's choose let's call it labels. That's fine. World labels. That's fine. Let's choose the name field. Click Create Labels, and that creates the labels component, which I can drag and drop into the map. And labels appear for the area objects that are in them in that layer: the United States, Brazil, China, and Australia. To make those labels larger, I can click on here in the Style panel again, and I can change the size from 8 points to 10 points to make those labels a little bit bigger. Now what I would like to do is I'd like to create a drop shadow. And what I want to do is to create a drop shadow is I want to show a little bit of dark edging around on this side, below and to the right of each of these objects to make them pop out a little better. No, wait, actually before I do that, let's change the transparency of the Bing layer using the Layers panel. I'm going to change Bing's to 50%. And when I do that, that makes the Bing layer 50% transparent, so the white background layer shines through, and that has the net effect of making the Bing layer lighter and less obtrusive, and the four countries stand out a little bit better. Okay, now let's go on to creating the drop shadow. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to make a copy of the world layer here. For that, I want to copy the drawing in the drawings table. Click here for copy. Click here for paste. And that creates a new component called World 2. I'm going to drop that into the map just below the world layer. And because World 2 is an exact copy of World, if I turn off World here, we see World 2 layer. In fact, let's turn off the labels so we can see there's World 2, and here's World. They're absolutely identical. Let's change that by reformatting World 2 so that instead of being colors, it is black. Click here, and I'll just choose the black color. I won't use the thematic format. So now we have two layers. We have World 2, which is an exact copy of shapes and data of World, except that it's a different color. I'm going to click World back on. Great. Now let's shift World 2. What we're going to do is we're going to shift that black layer World 2 down and to the right a little bit so it gives a little bit of an edge effect. And to do that, we're going to use the transform panel. And we will use the template called Shift. And here, Shift, I will enter 4,000. And as you can see, as I start entering numbers, Manifold gives us a preview in blue preview color of what it's about to do. So if I entered instead of 4,000, 40,000, you can see how that would be moving that to the right. But let's just make it 4,000. And let's also shift that down, which is shifting Y, but a negative number because we want to shift it down. So it's negative. Let's use 6,000. And again, if I made that 60,000 minus 60,000, you can see how that would shift all these down a little bit farther. But let's just shift them down 6,000. Now, where did these numbers come from that we're using Shift X and Shift Y? Well, I just tinkered with them. It's easier in Manifold sometimes just to tinker to see what the preview does than it is to try to calculate exactly how far you want to move one layer relative to another to get the effect that you want. So you just tinker with the numbers here until the preview looks about right, and then you click here, Update Field, to say, okay, do it. And what we've now done is we've taken the World 2 layer, which there it is, and we've shifted it down and to the right compared to the World layer to give this a nice edge effect. Let's turn the labels back on. And there is one rendition of our finished map. If we like, we can double-click off the Bing Street View to make it look like that, which shows you the relative sizes of the four countries. Now, these are in Gauss projection, and we're exploiting a feature of the Gauss projection where they're equal area. So even though these countries are somewhat changed in shape, they're slightly deformed in shape because of the the way the Gauss projection works, the areas nonetheless really are comparable areas in terms of arithmetically comparable areas. So you can really see that China is about that size compared to the U.S. Australia really is a pretty big place. And there you go. Let us do one last other thing, which I think is pretty cool. And what we've done is we've seen how we could copy and paste an entire layers from one session to another. Suppose at this point we decide, I really wish I had Russia in this picture as well. But we've already deleted all the countries from our world drawing. So how are we going to get that country back? Well, let's launch that. Let's get back to that other session that we had. And here we can do is we can zoom into here. And let's Control-click on Russia and Control-C to copy. And then we'll click here back into our other session, put the focus on the world layer. And here we will edit paste. And Russia will appear. And at this point, if we like, we can Control-Alt-click Russia and Control-A to select everything, and then down here, we'll move it down here to about there somewhere. Click Update Record, and now we have a little bit of tinker time ahead of us, so we can manipulate Russia as we did the other previous countries. And that just shows you how, in addition to copying and pasting an entire layer worth of stuff, let's move that down a little bit further. How in addition to copying and pasting an entire layer full of stuff, you can copy and paste individual objects as well, which is pretty cool. So what have we done so far? We've learned how to reproject a map from pseudo-Mercator into Gauss projection. And if we look at the various what's going on here with the various layers, we can see here in the contents component pane that the map uses Gauss. It's reprojecting Bing from pseudo-Mercator into the Gauss projection dynamically. It's reprojecting World 2 and World 1 and world from latitude and longitude into the Gauss projection. So all that is happening dynamically on the fly for your comfort and convenience in Manifold. And we've learned how to edit objects to move them about. We've learned how to use style in a simple way. We've learned how to create labels. And we've learned how to copy and paste between different sessions from one session to another session to create exactly the effects that we want in a map and to make it convenient and easy to use data from wherever they may be. Unlike other GIS packages, you can launch as many Manifold sessions as you want and copy and paste between them with no problem. Okay, that's run a little bit longer than I expected, but I think nonetheless it's been a useful display. You can dazzle your friends by showing them how big the United States is relative to Australia for people that want to know that kind of stuff. And I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and come back and watch the next video soon. So goodbye from Manifold Land. Well, that was fun. If you want to see more, visit us at www.manifold.net. As always, Manifold delivers the world's most advanced, highest quality spatial products for GIS and DBMS at a low price that you can afford. Once again, that's manifold.net. See you soon.